Right then, for the price, I think the Pixel 7 Pro might just be a better deal than the Galaxy S22 Ultra. Now, it does look almost identical to last year's Pixel phones, but this time with that aluminum camera bar seamlessly meeting the edges, it looks a lot better. Now there's 3 colors to choose from, but the only one that actually stands out is hazel with this polished muted gold accent for all the metal bits, which by the way is super duper slippery, so be careful if you've got sweaty hands. But what's nice though is that fingerprints hardly show with this hazel color, and same with the pale gold metal bits. I mean, they're still there of course, but they're harder to see. And with Gorilla Glass Victus on the front and back, potential scratches should be fairly minor, although I'd personally still count on needing a screen protector. We've got the same 6.7-inch 1440p OLED LTPO display as last year with the 10 to 120 Hz refresh rate, but this year we get a peak brightness of 1500 nits, which is almost double over last year, so you'll get better outdoor visibility along with brighter colors and highlights while watching content, specifically HDR content obviously, which looks great. Side note, if you're using the speakers while watching content, you'll probably feel a bit underwhelmed. I mean, audio's clean and clear, but it's almost like Google forgot about the lows. So now, I'm personally not a fan of the curved edges. I usually get a lot of accidental touches with them, and so with even thinner bezels than last year's Pixel, this hasn't changed for me with the Pixel 7 Pro. And I'm not really sure why people like curved edges so much, so if you could let me know in the comments, that'd be great. Anyways, we also get new in-display fingerprint reader hardware. Now, I've been hearing others saying that it's a big improvement over last year's, but in my experience so far, it's only been like marginally better, which I'm kind of disappointed about. We did get Face Unlock back, if that's something you prefer, but it's still using the same old unsecure method where someone could simply use a picture of your face to unlock it. Now, with Google's new 2nd Gen Tensor chip, you probably won't notice huge performance gains with normal, everyday usage, but it does bring performance improvements to machine learning-based tasks like speech-to-text and image processing, for example. 60% faster, in fact, and apparently 20% more efficient, which, of course, goes towards battery life. So how is battery life on the 7 Pro? Really bloody good actually. With its 5000 mAh battery, a lot of reviewers are seeing like 6 to 7 hours, but after a couple of software updates, I'm personally getting 7 to 8 hours of screen on time. And you know, that's with driving around in the mountains using GPS while streaming music over Bluetooth, running the display at 1440p with high brightness, and of course, smooth display mode enabled. So anyways, while it's not gonna win any benchmark awards, it'll still rock any game you throw at it at any graphics setting without any noticeable frame drops. But you know, the Pixel's never been about raw performance, right? It's about a smooth, optimized user experience that adds convenience through special software features you only get with a Pixel device, like call screening, Direct My Call, which is annoyingly only available in the US right now, Google's unrivaled speech-to-text with its live transcribe feature, and there's even a free Google VPN coming to Pixel phones as a Pixel feature drop soon too. So there's a lot to like about the Pixel 7 Pro, but there's always been one thing about Pixel phones everyone can agree on: the fantastic photo quality. And this year we've got some new camera hardware and camera features to take things even further. Right, so just to briefly mention the new hardware, we've got the same 50 megapixel standard wide as last year, but this year we've got a new 12 megapixel ultra wide and a 48 megapixel telephoto with 5 times optical zoom. And while this might just be the placebo effect, it seems like colors, contrast, saturation, and even dynamic range from the 50 megapixel standard wide that carried over from last year looks even better this year. I've been really impressed with how well balanced the highlights and shadows are when taking photos facing bright light sources instead of like blowing out highlights to compensate for some darker scenes or crushing the shadows in brighter scenes. Now, unfortunately, like a ton of other phone cameras I've tested, I noticed the telephoto camera's white balance isn't matched with the standard and ultra wide. It's a bit warmer, but other than that, it does really well, and when paired with super res zoom, it's phenomenal. Like personally, I think the 20 times digital point is at its peak of shareable image quality, but for a 5 times optical zoom, that's pretty impressive. I will say though, at 30 times the image stabilization is a bit too aggressive and makes it super difficult to steady the object you're trying to frame in that little yellow viewfinder box, but I think a little software update should solve that. Now, I've seen a bunch of telephoto camera comparisons between the Galaxy S22 Ultra and the Pixel 7 Pro, and even though at 30 times digital the S22 Ultra beats out the 7 Pro in detail and sharpness, it's not a staggering difference. And keep in mind, the S22 Ultra has a 10 times optical zoom compared to the 5 times on the 7 Pro. So I can only imagine what the 7 Pro could do with a 10 times optical like the S22 Ultra, but with the Pixel's super res zoom in action. The ultra-wide has an auto macro mode that you can switch to manual if you want. I didn't really take many photos using it, but it works. Now, one of the new features is Magic Eraser. And yeah, I know Samsung's had it for a little bit already, but now Pixel users get some of that action too. And let me tell you, it's come in super handy. Like, I've already shown you these photos, but what you didn't know is that there were a ton of photobombing tourists. Another new feature is face unblur. Now, I had to really dig through my photo library to find a blurry image, but I did, and yeah, it worked for that image, so I decided to run it again through the unblur feature, and it seems to have cleaned up the image even more. Now, it's not a miracle worker, but if you're not satisfied with the first result, just run that unblurred image through face unblur again, and it should look better. Night mode works even better than before, and now we get to choose the exposure time from I still want it to look like night to let there be light. This is probably the best night mode on any phone out right now. 4K video looks great as expected, and now we get 4 stabilization modes to pick from. Standard, locked, and cinematic pan support 4K, but active is limited to 1080p, but all the modes work very well, and I'm really impressed. The new 10.8 megapixel selfie cam has standard and wide angle modes, and pictures look good. If there isn't anything causing a color cast in your face, skin tones look great, but I wish there was some kind of algorithm to detect when there is color cast and autocorrect it for us. I think Google did an absolutely stellar job with the camera system and all the new features this year. Like, you can get wicked looking photos without even trying, but then you throw in the display, the battery life, the smooth user experience, and all the convenient Pixel exclusive features with more already in the pipeline. And I think it's a better value for the money than the Galaxy S22 Ultra, but that's just me. So what do you think? Anyways, I think that's gonna do it for this one. So let's get the flame wars going in the comments, shall we? Thanks as always for watching, and I'll talk to you all in the next one. Cheers.